Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning. Happy Monday to everybody. I am way over the top pumped about today's topic. Um, I'm going to not get into my story too much, but if you I am going to tell my story, but if you own a business, you're a business owner, and you either haven't started building your team yet, or you struggle to build a team, or if you want to hire somebody and you might not know exactly who you need to hire first, yeah, you're in the right place. Okay. Because we're going to talk about those things today. We're going to talk about how to know who to hire, and what would make the most impact in your business. Because I think a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur and you're at that place where you're just overwhelmed, you get up every morning, you have a big passion in your heart to do what needs to be done that day. But you get in the weeds really, really quickly. If that's, and you think, well, okay, I just need help, but you don't know where to start, who to hire, that kind of thing. Again, you're gonna get so much value out of today's show. So I'm super excited. As you guys are coming in, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you? Quick story. We woke up. I mean, if you guys have been I'll call you my regulars. You show up for every show. Then you know that I've been in Virginia for a bit, taking care of my almost 96-year-old father. It's hard to believe that he'll be 96 at the end of this month. But we woke up this morning to snow on the ground. So I was like, and again, those of you who know Max, he's almost 7 months old now. Puppy, he had never seen snow before. So he went crazy, thought, like, what is this sorcery? This is amazing. I love this. So yes, Christina says I'm living in the weeds right now in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hey, Christina, I'm so glad to see you, girl. I hope you're doing good. Robin is saying it's cold in Wyoming. I bet it is. Ooh, our guest this morning, which I'm super excited about, is in Ohio. So she said it was snowing there too. So we have, I bet it is cold in Canada, Mississauga. My boys played hockey for years, almost their entire lives. They're still playing hockey. And we visited Mississauga many times over the years. Yeah, so who has snow this morning? It was kind of an interesting, yes, I do. So my son last week was complaining because it was 50 in Tampa. So yeah, I have a different perception now that I have been in Virginia for a while, and it's a little bit colder. So I laugh and tell people all the time I dress for success from the waist up. So I've got my sweater and my fuzzy house shoes on this morning. So Robin says, no snow, just cold. Okay. So just a few quick things. If you have never been on one of my shows before and you have no idea who I am, my name is Kim Garst. I'm an online business strategist, which is just basically a fancy way of saying I love helping entrepreneurs, specifically online entrepreneurs, grow their businesses. And I'm super passionate about multiple income streams. So I love teaching people how to make more money, essentially, and how to operate their businesses in a more streamlined way, which, again, today's topic is going to be so value-based to you guys. But if you are brand new and never been on one of my shows before, just drop in #new. I'd love to say hey to you. And a couple of other things. We do giveaways on every show. So the giveaways we're going to do today, I'll tell you what they are, how you can enter to win, and we'll go from there. So based on today's topic, we're going to give away a book that was really instrumental for us called Rocket Fuel. When we did embrace this concept of an integrator, and we really embraced it hard, trying to figure out what it was, what it looked like, what did it mean. So we're going to give away that book as a starting point for you if you decide that an integrator is what you need in your business today. So hey, Vaughn, I'm glad you're here. And we have, I hope I'm saying this right, Sarah? I hope I said it correctly. Okay, and then the other thing, we give away this little bitty thing. And you're like, what is that? it's a webcam cover so that people can't spy on you. It's a big thing these days, evidently. So a webcam cover, and I would like to give a big shout out to our sponsor for today's show, the Go Social Content Club. Have you ever sat down in front of your computer, you know you got to post something on social, but you're like, what am I going to put out there today? So you sit there and you're like pulling your hair out, like trying to figure out what you're going to post. And once you figure it out, then you have to create it. I got to go find a social, I got to go find a tool. I'm going to create this great graphic, put it out on social. We take the sting out of that with the Go Social Content Club. It's a pre-designed social media content that is designed to get people engaging with you. So if content is a problem for you, you'll want to check out the GoSocialContentClub.com. We're going to give away 3 1-month trials to the Go Social Content Club today. So the way you enter to win is simple. If you hear something that is, oh my gosh, it's so mind-blowing, I call them aha moments. Even if it's something you knew, you just haven't taken action on, drop in your aha moments with hashtag aha, and we choose our winners from those, okay? So that means you have to listen in and share what means something to you and you feel is value-based to you. Okay. So I want to introduce to you guys our special guest today. Marisa is an integrator, and she works with Jenna Kutcher's team. Now, she has a very interesting background before she started working with Jenna, which we're going to dig into in a little bit. And I wanted to go ahead and bring her on in so that we can just jump in and get to it, because this is such a passion for both of us. So give Marisa a big hand, welcome her. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Yes, I think this is a topic that so many need, but I'm just going to be honest. I think a lot of times the hard stuff in our businesses, if we're a certain mindset, we shy away from them. We lean more to the shiny objects because I don't know. It's like, oh, tell me how I can get 100 new Instagram followers today. Boom, I'm there. But if it gets to something that's hard, like setting up a system for our business, we're like, like you just groaned, right? Totally. So, and don't feel necessarily bad about that, because I hope I'm going to take the sting out of that in just a second. So, I was telling Marisa before we started today that, well, let me share my quick story, and then I want her to share her story as it comes to how she got here, essentially. But I think this is going to be super value-based to you guys, because you're going to not only learn from an integrator, but you're going to learn from somebody who's the business side of it, meaning I'm the CEO, if you want, of my business, and how did I decide that I needed an integrator like Marisa. So this is going to be both sides of the fence, essentially. But I was in an event. Some of you may know of this event. It was traffic and conversion two years ago, 2018. And I guess almost 3 years ago now. And you know how sometimes you are in a situation where you're just at the right place at the right time and you don't even realize it? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. So I was at this event, and the topic of this session was like, like, I don't know if I want to go to that. It just didn't blow my skirt up. Going back to the example I told you before, like, sometimes we're attracted to the shiny objects versus the things that matter. And so I decided that whatever. It was Perry Belcher was talking about, I forgot the title. What doesn't matter. But the point of it is, the takeaway that I got from his session was he was talking about this agency that they have, and it wasn't doing very well. And he was blaming it on his team. He was like, I just thought it was the team. They were just lazy. They weren't doing their jobs, whatever. And he decided that he was going to figure this out. So he bought a book. Actually, he bought 2 books, but one of those books was Rocket Fuel. And he realized that there's basically 2 types of business owners in this world. Okay, so this is really important. So again, he said he called him an architect and a builder. And there's different terminologies for these roles in a business. And he talked about the creator being the visionary, meaning they're the creative that has an idea a minute kind of person. That's me. And he said that most highly successful businesses have they have somebody that's a visionary. And he used like the Disney brothers as an example. Walt was the visionary, Roy was the builder. So the builder is the second entity. And he said in some cases, a person that's a builder can have a successful business, but he said they're usually not wildly successful because they don't have the vision that a visionary would have. And I was like, it was like this aha moment. It was all a moment in where I was like, okay, it gave me release to understand who I was and that it was okay that I was that person, because I thought I had to be all things. I thought I had to be the builder. I thought I had to know how to do every little thing in my business, which is why, honestly, I'm where I am today, because I hold on to so many of those things because I think I need to be doing them. And so it was like a big aha moment. And then I just had hired someone at that point, and she was with me, and we look at each other like, we both had that moment of, okay, this is my role as a visionary, and this is your role as a builder or an integrator. So I wanted to set the stage for that, because we have to determine which one we are. And if we are one or the other, if you're a builder, you need a visionary. And if you are a visionary, you need a builder or an integrator. So I'm sorry, Marisa, I took a lot of time to say all that. But how did you arrive? Like, what's your backstory to get you to a place where you're now an integrator on someone's team?
Yes, so I loved that. That pumped me up because it's going to lead so well into not only how my story was cultivated and my path led me here. So, in a nutshell, I grew up in small business. I don't know if you've ever heard of Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. It's well known on the east side of the world, but in any event, my parents owned a franchise, multiple franchises of them, and I grew up working inside of their restaurants. So I already had a knack for what that looked like. And then as I grew up and started to step into my own career path, I actually took my first assignment, which is outside of small business, funny enough. And right out of college, I accepted a full-time role as a human resource executive team leader with Target. So I was actually in store. And my first assignment with Target was leading one of their highest volume stores in the Toledo area. And then my second assignment after that was actually transitioning back to Cleveland and leading their highest volume store within HR there. And so as I was, kind of climbing up the ladder and really investing in these teams and large teams, I started to just feel this lack of control over just my freedom and kind of the next steps in my life. And I decided that I needed to kind of return and repivot and select the proper path to get me to where I wanted to be, which led me to actually managing the 10,000 Small Businesses Goldman Sachs Business Accelerator that's located at a local community college by us. It was an accelerator primarily for small businesses in Northeast Ohio to scale and to learn through practical education how to scale properly. So I managed that for around 3 years. And then in that situation, learned that business owners, as you said, continuously get stuck in the weeds. They are continuously working in their business instead of on it. And it was a common challenge that regardless of what field these business owners derived from, they were facing. And so that made me actually come up with the next idea. One of our instructors had been talking about her virtual assistant, and I thought, what the heck is a virtual assistant? And then that led me into the virtual assistant world, which is the first stepping stone to, I think, having great support in your business, if potentially an integrator is the next step, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So I started a virtual assistant business, started serving one-on-one to small businesses, whether product or service-based, and grew that. and then got to a point in my business where I was the business owner, like you. But in my world, I was the one who could execute. I didn't have all the ideas. And I had said to myself and to my husband now, and to a few of our friends, that if I could just find the person with the ideas and then I could just execute all the ideas, I would crush it. And then I met Jenna, who at the time, 16 months ago, was in a similar place for you, where she was like, I'm ready to step truly into my zone of genius, which is the visionary role. And I'm looking for someone who is going to crush it as an executor and make those ideas come to life. And that is where I am currently as an integrator to Jenna.
I just love that, because I was sharing with you earlier that has been such my journey. So I've owned 7 online businesses over the last almost 30 years. So I'm in around a minute or two, and they've been highly successful, like by all measuring sticks. But they sucked the life out of me, each and every one of them, to the point of burnout. Because in my first business, I was working 18 hours a day. I would get up and I would go to bed with everybody else. I put my kids to bed. I go to bed, wait until my husband was asleep, and then I would sneak down the steps, hoping nothing creaked as I went, and I would go back to work. So crazy, ridiculous. This is the first business that I've had systems and somebody to run the back end of my business. I struggled because I was in the weeds, to your point, every day. So if you guys are that person, one, I want you to give yourself some grace, because like I said, 30 years, hint, hint, 28, I guess, that I didn't figure this out. Okay. So don't kick yourself if you're at that place where, why didn't I know this? Like it took me obviously a long time to figure this out. But when the light bulb went off and we started segmenting the roles, and me being okay with just being what I am and my strengths, I could focus on my strengths and let somebody else do things that, even though I could do them, I didn't have to do. And because they're not my zone of genius. Like, I'll just give you a couple of examples. So we talked about this before too. You give me a spreadsheet with numbers on it, and my head immediately blows up. Like, yeah, that's not me. Like, that's not my thing. But my builder or my integrator, she like leans in and she loves it. So do you agree with that?
I 100% agree. I love spreadsheets. I love processes. I love systems. I love organization. All of those things light me up.
So you talked about something a minute ago, because I think as an entrepreneur, normally when we feel like we're ready to hire someone, our first inclination is normally to hire a VA. So would you say to somebody that's at that place where they're like, okay, I know I need to hire somebody, and they're leaning towards the potentially hiring a VA? Is that a better option, or is an integrator a better option for them? Or what's your thoughts?
That's a great question. So one thing I think is super important to note here is that someone can grow. The integrator role is not something that is just standardized. Like, there is a list of qualities that you have to exactly be or fill to be an integrator. And let me expand on that. For me, and what I recommend is, if a VA feels like the first best step to you, that when you're in the process to hiring one, I would actually look at their skill set and see if they have skills that could potentially expand and grow into what an integrator could be. I think it's a great way if you're perhaps not at the place where you can financially afford an integrator, or perhaps you're not looking to bring on a full-time employee just yet. Again, a VA is a great alternative. And again, they have the ability to evolve. And with a VA being a contractor, you have the opportunity as the business owner to really hone in and see if this partnership can expand and grow. Because I will tell you, and I'm sure that you can relate in this way, is that an integrator and visionary relationship is almost like a second marriage. The two roles really have to work well together and give grace where the other needs it and fill in the gaps, because you're going to have tough times, and you've just got to be able to collaborate effectively, communicate effectively, and those skills can be extracted through a virtual assistant. And then the other thing I would recommend if you're looking at potentially outsourcing and starting with a virtual assistant would be to start asking yourself some of these questions. So for instance, like, have you ever brought in any type of outsourcing roles before? And what did that look like for you? What were the pain points? What worked really well? When you think about your current systems and processes, like, how do you feel? Evaluating where the pain points are there too, so that you're kind of setting the stage to bring someone in who can really start to kind of implement and do things well for you, instead of just doing the same thing that you've been doing again and again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you know what we should have talked about before, and I apologize for this, is what is the difference between an integrator and a VA? I think a lot of people might not understand what an actual integrator is. What does that role look like? Because that was something that we evolved into, not necessarily started with. So if somebody's just getting started and they're like, okay, so do I need an integrator? Yeah, tell me what an integrator is in your words.
Totally. So a visionary, for me, in my words, is they're the glue to an organization. So we create, organizational clarity, communication, and consistency. And typically this role operates on logic. We're here to drive results, priority, team. It's more of a leadership role. And a lot of times my job is to remove obstacles or barriers for the team, and so that they can execute quickly and efficiently. And we're not pulling the visionary, or Jenna specifically, out of their creative space, so they can continue to ideate and guide, and then we can then continue to execute. And if you like, I have a good visual analogy that I like to use with this too, to describe what an integrator is. If you think about a volleyball match, the visionary for me is the person who always sets up that match, right? So their first serve is that idea, and then their idea will bounce around the court to either different teams or your team. And the integrator is that person who's like hustling around, and they're making sure the ball never hits the ground, or protecting it from the other team potentially scoring. And then as you get close to that point and you get close to the net, the integrator is that last person who lifts up that ball, sets it, and the visionary spikes it on over. So that's what I would describe as an integrator in totality.
That is such a great visual. So it's basically, in big business terminology, maybe, to kind of, because I think a lot of people are familiar with at least the concept. It's a project manager, essentially. It's somebody that but much more intimate. I will say that it's not, going back to your point, my integrator or business builder or whatever you want to call it is we're connected at the hip. I mean, I would even argue, I heard you say in another interview that was the second person that you spent the most time with. And some days my husband would argue that I spend more time with my so and I've heard her family say, what her kids say sometimes, how many times have y'all talked today? Like, because they probably hear my voice more than hers, or at least they hear it a lot, because we'll jump on Zoom if we need to or whatever. So there's a lot of connection and communication, verification, whatever. She always says that her role is to make me look good. And
I like
and
that.
the team as a whole's role is to make me look good. So that is amazing way for maybe potentially when you're looking to build relationship with whomever is going to be your business builder. It's a very intimate, I think it's a very intimate relationship versus being big business. Right? Would you agree?
I would. And I would say to that point too, for anyone who may potentially go off and look for this role, know too, because of the intimate nature of it and the connection piece, that it does take time too. So I'm not sure what your experience looked like, but it took us about a year to really get into our zone of geniuses. But not only that, but to get into our groove of how we support and work with each other effectively. So it does take time to build that relationship, as all relationships do.
And it is a relationship. So it's like for me, this might be not always be the case, but I would love to hear your experience with this, because again, I think this is great because we can, as a business owner and as an integrator, we're bringing both perspectives to the table, which I think is super cool. But like we gave the example of the Disneys, they were brothers. As it happens, that's the situation with me and my integrator. We're sisters. So the fascinating part is she has no fear of me. So, because we're sisters. So, she calls me on my stuff. And it's important to have that kind of an open relationship where you can just say it. And I'm curious if and you don't have to like give us any like nitty gritty, but do you feel like you and Jenna have that same relationship where, sometimes you need to just have that, you can be honest with one another and say, you need to, because it's a relationship. So I'm curious, do you feel that is true, that you guys have the ability to say to each other, all right, enough already, or, you're not seeing the big picture here or whatever? Just love to know what that looks like, the dynamic for you guys.
I would say now I do. We are not sisters by blood, so I definitely did not feel confident in my ability to do that like right off the bat. But I think that's just the combination of like getting used to a new relationship, or just like dating, like you're kind of feeling out how that will go, how that looks. But now I definitely feel that way. And one of the things that's been really influential in our team, not only in how Jenna and I, collaborate or resolve conflict together, but in our team in general, we've been working with an emotional intelligence consultant for the past 5 months now. And so that has allowed her and I to also increase our ability to really sit with ourselves, understand ourselves, and that in turn allows us to understand each other too. So that has been helpful, and that has allowed me to, yes, be very confident in my ability to tell her how I feel, or if I think that the direction is not correct or doesn't feel good or anything like that.
Yeah, I love that. For me, because I'm such an idea person and I'm always, we did that. Let's jump to the next thing. She reels me in and says, no, we can't do that, or we don't have the bandwidth to do that, or the team is overextended, because sometimes I'm so excited about, I'm excitable, like sometimes because of all the ideas I have. I'm like, oh, we could do that, or we could do the other thing. And it makes her life a little bit more difficult. Do you agree with that too? Like, sometimes you have to reel her in and okay, all right, good.
Yeah, there is a balance. And I think one of the beauties of visionaries is that they have all the ideas. Like your minds are moving a million miles per second. And so many things can appear shiny and so forth. So yes, there is a balance of being able to pull back, to reevaluate. But one of the best parts about Jenna and my relationship personally is that we both really lead on our gut. So we call it our gut guide. And together, typically we're aligned in our feelings of what feels best and what feels right. And so that has helped us too with balancing out that.
I love that. So we just touched on it just real briefly. I do believe that it's so true that there are two types of business owners. You're either the visionary or the builder, or the visionary or the integrator, whatever words you want to use. And maybe, for the person who is a builder and they're like struggling to really get their businesses moving, do you have any advice for somebody who's like having that aha moment and understanding that maybe the impact that they could bring, that they're desiring to bring, that they're very heart-centered to bring to the world, isn't maybe the way they thought they were supposed to bring it, meaning you've had this transition from being your own business owner to, coming under the umbrella of a visionary. What advice would you give for somebody who's in that moment of thinking to themselves, should I keep being my own business owner or my own entrepreneur, my own thing, or should I align myself with somebody that is the visionary so that I can bring the impact that I want to the world?
That's such a powerful question. And to be honest with you, I wish it was a question I would have asked myself or had found myself before Jenna and I initially connected, because the first thing I would recommend for you is don't look at the potential of finding your place where you can make that impact as a failure, as if your business didn't work and that you have failed at being an entrepreneur, because that's not the case. It's just, as we've talked about, that there may be a better fit for you where you can still utilize your entrepreneurial spirit and your passion to create big things and to make big impacts. And so that's my first recommendation, is it's not a failure, it's a stepping stone. And so that would be my first. And then secondly, when I read Rocket Fuel, for me, is when I had the aha moment where it explained the different skills. And there's an assessment you can take within the book that they give you that will tell you, am I more in line with a visionary? Am I more in line with an integrator? Or am I a little bit of both? And after I took that assessment, and it kind of validated the things I had been feeling or questioning, because you do question yourself as well as, yes, I'm good at A, B, C, and D, but like my business isn't growing in the way, or I'm not having these ideas to make it thrive. And so just coming home to yourself and realizing that you do have skill sets that can be even more applicable or even bigger, better utilized in another space. So one, it's not failure. Two, release it with yourself and evaluate the skills that you have and the skills that you don't have, and be honest with yourself about that. And then three, start looking, depending on what you're trying to do. So for me, I really wanted to be in the online business world. I wanted to work remotely. I looked at my life and what did I want for my life? And that looked like working from home, having more flexible hours, all of the things that also brought me into the entrepreneurial world to begin with. But now that I could do that alongside someone else. So that would be my third tip, is just evaluating, what do you want your life to look like? How do I paint that picture? And then looking for it.
Mm-hmm. And just on the other side of the fence, I would say ditto exactly. Meaning, if you think you're a visionary, all those things are still applicable. So if you are like idea minute, running around like a chicken in the weeds all the time, you've got to stop and identify those things. And then what do you want your life to look like? It doesn't have to look like that.
Exactly.
It can look different if you have the right pieces in place. So everything that Marisa just said is true if you think you're a visionary as well. So I think there's a big opportunity here for both types of people, both types of business owners, to do bigger things if you find each other.
And you didn't build a business or start a business because you wanted to be run down or burnt out or lack flexibility, or, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of us started businesses to build the life that we dreamed of. So just realize where you are and you can get back to that. It is possible.
Yeah, it is. And, that's been the biggest blessing for me, is to realize that I go to sleep every night knowing that there's just things that magically happen now. Whereas before, those magical things didn't happen because I had to have everything was single threaded through me, which brings me to another passion that we discovered that we share, which is not something I understood that I even needed or desired. So, how many of you have heard this big word that starts with an S? Systems. Like, we all hear it. Every business owner out there knows that we need them. But let me just clearly define a system is basically a list of what needs to happen for a specific task. That's a very generic and very basic definition of a system. But until this business that I currently have, which I closed down my Boom Social at the end of 2018. So essentially the business I'm in right now, I had never had a system. I had never had an integrator either. Mm-hmm. So the integrator implemented all the systems. And now, like I said, magical things happen every day that I don't have to do. So tell me about that. What did that look like for you? Like when you first came on board with Jenna, I'd love to know your journey for that path. Like, what did it look like when you stepped into her business? And I don't mean it to like dish on her business. That's not what I mean at all. But most of us are in that place. I would bet you that most people who don't have systems are in that same place and they can identify with it.
Yes. So I will give you 3 common gaps that not only did I find in Jenna's business when I came in, but that I've seen in a multitude of other businesses. So one thing being that there's actual systems, if we want to call them that, or processes that are in place, but they have not been audited for a while, or they just appear to work. So we kept doing it and haven't changed anything about them, or the systems and processes we thought we had in place aren't actually the most effective or efficient. So one thing that's the most critical is documentation around those processes that you may have already, that you think you're doing, or you are doing, I should say. And when I came into Jenna's business, they had already had processes that were working, systems that were working. But what was happening was we had a variety of team members that were working in their different silos. So they were just working predominantly on their processes. But as we started to take all of these silos and start to integrate them so that they could be more effective and efficient and work together, we started to realize that there were some gaps in the way, not only in the way that we were doing it, but the tools in which we were using to do that. And so with me coming in, I was able to not only learn kind of what the processes that were currently happening were, and then what we did, one of the biggest accomplishments and things I'm most proud of is that we selected a project management tool called Monday.com, and we implemented that into our business and started to integrate our different team members. We started to document not only our SOPs or our standard operating procedures. We started to build a repository. So I find that a lot of businesses just have all of their stuff all over the place. Google Docs galore, Google Drive chaos. And I'm sure many of you are giggling right now, like, that sounds familiar. It's very familiar. And so we needed to find a place that we could house all of that material, resources, trainings, brand assets. And then my third piece, which Monday comes into play here as well, is team and your team accountability SOPs and what those look like, and where, what does your communication hierarchy look like? All of our team was used to reporting directly to Jenna, but as the visionary, you really can't have that. You can be the end all be all where you are the final sign off, but to really truly live and dwell and thrive in your creative visionary space, you cannot be dealing with the daily operations of your business. And so that is another item that I was able to come in, kind of build those pillars essentially, where the team will come to me first to unblock them or to answer questions or to pull resources, so that when we get that final task or project or sign off to Jenna, it's truly final, or she's tweaking. She's not having to deal through the details.
So powerful. And that was so funny because that was exactly our mess that my integrator stepped into. Either it wasn't like she'd say, well, where's this? And I'm like, I don't know, like maybe it's in a Google
Yes.
Drive, like go check there, or maybe it's in Dropbox. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so we had to do exactly the same thing. And now Monday is our hub, like everything operates from there.
Ours too.
Something else you said that I think was super powerful, and it was something we evolved into as well. Everything was siloed. So everybody had their own role, their own thing. But when we really we put started bringing everything into a collaborative environment, and Monday helped us to do that. Everybody could see the pieces of how their piece played nicely with the other pieces.
Mhm.
So once that happened, it was a big aha moment for the team, and now they rely. It just happens magically. Like if the web designer needs an image, a graphic design, he's like, he'll just reach out. I mean, now that they see how other people's pieces play into their pieces, now they start just communicating and connecting the dots themselves. So you have to empower your team to have an environment that they can thrive in. And siloing them isn't always, it's been my experience anyway, based on we had to evolve there. We didn't see it initially. So if that's something I can share, and it sounds like that was something you guys had to evolve into too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the questions I've seen go by quite frequently is how in the world, if I'm a visionary, and I know they're listening to this and they're having this aha moment, how do they go about finding an integrator?
Ooh, that's a great question as well. So Jenna and I connected on LinkedIn. That's where we were actually able to first connect. So LinkedIn, I would say, is a wonderful way. I know that I've seen integrator listings on LinkedIn from potential employers. So that is a great place to look, whether you're the visionary looking for what that role description may entail, so that you can refine it, or at least have a base to refine for your brand or business. And then from the integrator perspective, that gives you the ability to connect with employers who are looking for that specific role. LinkedIn is a great place. I would also recommend for you to connect with other integrators so that you can really dive into if that could be a good fit for you or not. And then also looking at the different qualities and skill sets that a typical integrator entails, so that you can too provide that context when you're speaking to a potential employer about what you can bring to the table and really do. That would be a great place. The other place that I've seen that's a really awesome ground is Facebook. I mean, we have so much access to so many different groups and communities for small businesses, for entrepreneurs. And I know that a lot of people within the space, whether they're VAs or OBMs, online business managers, or integrators, or again, the visionary looking for one of those types of roles, they are there looking. So it's an easy as asking the question of, hey, is anyone looking for this role? And starting connection there as well. So those are my top two that I would think would be easiest barrier to entrance. And then also with regards to easiest way to start a connection, start building relationships, and find the best fit.
All right, that is such good advice. So let me ask you a question. Do you think there are people out there who understand that there are an integrator and they're advertising that they're an integrator? Or is that something kind of a new term that, I think there's a lot of VAs who have a wide skill set that could step into this role, but do you think they're identifying as that yet? So I'm just curious as to, it's kind of like, I think you get the question, but I'm just, wanting to elaborate a little bit, like when I first started in social media, I was like, yeah, I'm just a social media manager, or whatever, because you were managing social media, and then it evolved to you're a social media strategist, or you're a social media consultant, and terminology matters. What you call yourself matters. So what do you think in the context of this? Do you feel like there are more and more people identifying and starting to message that they are integrators so that visionaries can find them?
I think we are finally at the start of this conversation where people are truly identifying correctly as integrators, and they are correctly marketing themselves as is. For me, when I came into this role 16 months ago, I had not known what an integrator was prior. However, as I started to actually look and search for the key term integrator, I started to find so many more resources were available, and that there actually were integrators that had been around doing this for years. And the other thing I want to note in tandem with this is that, for you and I, this integrator role is a standard employee who is going to be in this leadership role, this project management role, and so forth. But an integrator role can take different shapes. There are individuals out there who are integrators just for launches specifically. There are integrators that are, contract integrators. So yes, I do believe there are a variety of resources out there that are allowing more and more people to align with that role, to evaluate it, and to know, like, that is what I'm doing. And for visionaries, I'm sure, who are conversing more with their peers and who are also seeing this role become more and more prevalent, because it is such an impactful thing to have in your business.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think that, a lot of people are starting to message it. I think visionaries are starting to tell how powerful this marriage, and it is, it really is a marriage. Like I said, I'm super excited about sharing this, because it has probably been the biggest, most impactful thing that I've ever, one, aha moment for me, and two, implemented in my business. Because now, one, I had to release a lot of things, as a business owner, and understanding that I didn't have to know everything. And I want to talk about that real quick, because I want to talk about it in the context of a business owner, and I want to talk about it in the context of an integrator too. We think, I'm going to use this generically across the board, but for both positions, we think in order to be able to oversee something, that we need to understand it all. We need to know the pieces and parts. And I just want to throw the biggest BS flag in the world on that, because I thought that I had to know everything, and I wasted like 28 years trying to figure all that out. Now, that said, my skill sets are wide because of that journey, and I'm thankful for that. But my gosh, if I had figured that out way sooner, that I didn't have to know absolutely everything, all the pieces and parts, before I just needed to find the person that did know all the pieces and parts, and trust them to do their job. And I get that it's a trust issue. One, and it's a release issue for those of us who are perfectionists. So I'm lying. I'm not a recovering. I am a perfectionist. And so it's hard to release that. So I think that's true even as an integrator, and understanding that you don't have to know all the pieces. You just have to manage the pieces. Would you agree with that?
Oh my gosh, this is so powerful, because sure enough, last week, small side story, we just had a task that was given to the team. And it was a creative task, and it was around content creation. And it was the first time that I had ever said, this isn't my zone of genius, but you've got everyone you need to help. It was Jenna needed help with a task, and a few team members who are super strong in content creation were right there to aid with her. And I, as the integrator, stepped back and was like, this isn't my area. Like, I can create content, but that's not where I really shine. And so it took time for me personally to also be able to step back and say, this isn't where I should be. This isn't where I should be spending my time and my energy. We have the right people to do that. And so it's you trusting yourself, and you relinquishing that piece that you have to be good at everything, because you can't. It's not possible. Perfection is not possible. You can be pretty dang good, but perfection, again, is not possible. So it's relinquishing control. It's trust building. Jenna had to trust me. I am spearheading projects in our brand right now that she has to trust in me that I'm going to execute wisely and pull to fruition so that they can impact our business for the better. And so 100% trust, 100% relinquishing control, 100% acknowledging and being okay with knowing where your area and zone of genius is and being confident to step out of a request or task when it doesn't fit that.
Mm. Yeah, and for us, it's a journey, and I want to say this real quick too, because it's super important. If you don't have this relationship yet, as you're journeying down this road together, you have to give each other grace, because you're going to make mistakes, especially when you first get started. I would venture to say that you probably have made some mistakes along the way.
Oh, yes.
Who hasn't? We all do. You as the business owner or the visionary, and or vice versa, if you're the builder and you are relinquishing some control to the visionary, then you have to understand that it's not going to be a perfect relationship out the gate. You're going to have to balance it and grow together, because both sides are going to have to trust the other one. Like you said, it is a symbiotic relationship. You rise or you fail together, and you have to embrace both sides of that. Even the failures you have to embrace together, because you're in the same boat, essentially.
And there's two things, Kim, if you don't mind, I want to add to that because I think are so important. One of the pieces to that puzzle too is also when I speak of our business or brand, I say our and we. A lot of times I know for the entrepreneur, the visionary, their biggest complaint or concern is I'm never going to find talent that cares for my business the way I do. And in reality, no, like no one truly is going to care for your business the way that you do as the owner. However, there are people like myself and out there who will truly do their very best, who take your business as their own and execute it, and do all of the things that are necessary to invest in it and love on it as the way it should be. So that's one thing too, I think is so important to remember. And then the second piece, when I think through the things or mistakes that I've made in growing this relationship, it's to also remember that you as the integrator are not the end all be all. So as a leader, and I've been in many leadership roles, I'm used to making that final decision. And a lot of times in this role as the integrator, the visionary is still going to be the one who makes that final decision. And so it's important that you remember that you cannot take it personally when your direction is not correct or it's not signed off on or another potential path is chosen. It's preference. It's not personal. And so those are just two things too I want to include as individuals are building these relationships.
Oh, I love that, because it's so true. We do that too. It's even though I'm the owner of the business, there's still buy-in across the board. The entire team, I'm so blessed with my team in the context of they do treat the business. They have personal ownership from a character perspective. Yeah. And it is, there are people out there like that will absolutely feel a part of, and it's a culture thing, as a leader, whether it's the visionary or if it's the integrator, that leadership has to come from both, I would say, to raise up, whether they're contractors or whether they're actually a part of your team, a full-time position on your team. It's important to bring those people into the overall culture of how you are presenting, not only let me state this. There are business owners who are not the same behind the scenes of their business as they are on the front side of their business.
Correct.
And so that's like a pet peeve for me, but anyway, we won't go there because it's totally taken us off. But again, it's culture. It's like, what does it look like? How do you raise everybody up? Because if you do that, they have a buy-in to your business. They feel like they have ownership and they're a part of. your business, and therefore they step into their roles and they love coming to work, and it just feeds on itself versus the other side of it, which doesn't always work as well. Okay, so while we're picking our winners, I want to ask one small last question. And this is a loaded one, and it may take you a minute or two. But like, what does a day in your life look like?
Oh boy. Okay, so a day in my life, I used to, when I would approach my week or my day, I would start by doing a big three. On Team Jenna Kutcher, a lot of us do a big three, where it's you take your big three items that need to be accomplished for the day to really move the needle forward, and you accomplish those before you get into anything else in your day. That would be a time suck like email or commenting on social. And then the later part of your day can be, excuse me, just focused for creativity. So I used to take that approach. And now that I've gotten so much more invested in just my own projects in tandem with our team's projects and all the big things we have moving, my day looks kind of like I start with a big one. I have a big 3 to 5 for the week that are going to move the needle forward. But my day is like this one big thing I will ensure is complete that will move the needle. So I'm going to attack that first. Then I get into my team check-ins because, as you know, projects are consistently moving. There's a lot of moving pieces. So I need to and like to know where everyone is on those pieces. I always like to say, too, I like to be one step ahead of Jenna in the way that I'm always anticipating what she's going to need or want or have questions about. And so that is my goal when I'm getting in with the team, is to know what all of those things look like so that I can properly move them where they need to be. I'll typically then get into my project assessment. Where are things? Do we need to strategically move anything? Do we need to collaborate with this person over here? Then I'll start moving those pieces, or I'll dig into then my own project, because again, I own different platforms of ours. I own different tools that we utilize. So, I have my own things going on. So I'll dig into that. And then I'll typically close the day with doing a check-in with Jenna, ensuring we're on the same page to move ahead. We'll close out the day with team check-ins to ensure they're in the right place, that they don't need anything to become unstuck, so that we can continue moving forward.
Oh, so good. So good. So I think this has been my favorite interview of all time. Seriously, I am so excited that you said yes. And I'm hoping, because like I said, this has been one of the biggest shifts that has made the most impact in my business. And I'm hoping that somebody out there, it only takes one, that had a huge aha moment and said, okay, I'm either one of these and I need the other one. And then hopefully you can find that person, because it'll make a world of difference, I think, for your businesses as well. So, all right. So the Rocket Fuel, I highly recommend Rocket Fuel. If you are not Christine and you are here, Christine won, so we're going to give her the book. But if this is a topic that is like a big eye opener, you need the next step. Like, how do I get going? Rocket Fuel is a great first step to understanding and really identifying which one you are. To Marisa's point, she's like, it will, there's, skill sets in there. It'll give you a little like quiz, if you will, to try to figure out. I knew immediately which one I was, because I lean way over in the creative space. So there was no doubt in my mind. But if you're not quite sure, definitely check out the Rocket Fuel book. So Christine, if you'll go to kimgarst.com/winner, we'll get and give us your details. We'll get that sent out to you. And let's see, our Go Social Content Club winners are Tina, Carol, and Robin. Same, if you guys will send us, go to kimgarst.com/winner and give us your details. We'll get you set up for the Go Social Content Club, and there'll be no more stressing over your content for social. You're going to love it. Okay, and then the webcam cover, Sharon Johnson won the webcam cover. So same girl, if you'll just go to kimgarst.com/winner, we'll get you taken care of and get that out in the mail. So yeah, I am super excited. I hope drop in, guys, if you had like a big Like, if you know, like without a shadow of a doubt, like I am a creative or I'm a visionary or whatever word you want to use, architect, there's different words for it. Whatever you self-identify as, or if you feel like you're a builder or an integrator, drop that in. I'd love to kind of get a feel for where we are. And by the way, we might actually find some matches here. Yeah. So, where if you feel like you're a visionary, but somebody else self-identified as a builder or an integrator, they're like, yeah, I'd much rather this. I'd much rather do all the things I'm super good at. And that goes for either side, actually. Yeah. So we've got Christina is saying she is a creative visionary. Just curious as to, yes. Rhonda said, thank you so much. So quick story, y'all. So we had this conversation, Rhonda and I. Rhonda is my integrator, and she draws the short end of the stick because she's the only one on the team that is in my time zone. So she also gets to do things like being live with me like this because she's on my time zone. Everybody else is asleep right now. So here, Sharon is a builder, guys. Oops. So that means she's an integrator, might be looking for potentially a relationship with a visionary. So maybe you guys can connect, okay? And then Susan is a visionary looking for a builder. Okay. So those of you who are builders, trust me, people are going to be flocking to your door. Visionaries are going to be looking for you because it is a huge missing component. So here's Elizabeth saying she's a creative. All right. She needs an integrator. So y'all start connecting. That's what I'm saying. So I want to just give a big shout out again to Marisa for coming and sharing. The reason that I'm so excited that I got a chance to meet Marisa, but Rhonda is not a big fan of coming out and being a guest. I'm like, come on. So she's like, no, I said, you either get Marisa or you're coming on the show. So that's what I told her. I was like,
I think she should.
So she reached out to Marisa though. But what do y'all think? Do you think we could just like pressure Rhonda and have her come on? I think she should, right?
I think so.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, Marisa, for coming and sharing your awesomeness. And I would just like to say thank you for making such a big difference in Jenna's business as well, because without you guys, we could not do what we do. We could not make the impact that we are here to make. And you are a part of that. So I just want to say thank you. I know she probably appreciates you tremendously, but I appreciate you for allowing her to do more because she's making an impact, she's making a difference, and it matters. So for those of you who are joined us live, thank you for joining us live. If you're watching the replay, again, I appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, amazing week. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and God bless.